Is 2025, you should be used to players with the initial CC making big waves in the professional basketball space. But Wednesday night, it was in Brooklyn, not Indiana. Cedric Coward gets drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies in a trade with the Portland Trailblazers. And boy, it had everybody in the Bluff City riveted to their TV screens and some cheering even harder than that. I'm Tyler Springs. This is Many Ways to Win. And today, we will try our best to break down the Cedric Coward selection for the Memphis Grizzlies. And we'll tell you what it means, why it happened, and perhaps if we have time, where it goes from here. Or maybe we'll save that for the next episode. Check it out. I first became aware of Cedric Coward a few days ago when Matt Norlander, who reports for CBS Sports on college basketball, wrote a giant profile about him and his rise from Division III to NBA draft prospect. And I think lots of people have learned about him in the last month who didn't know about him in 6 weeks before now, let alone at the start of this college basketball season. I told everybody that on the YouTube channel yesterday that it was Neat Clifford and Cedric Coward who had stood out for me in terms of I thought impact players that the Grizzlies might be able to draft at their position at 16. And I had a hunch Zach Kleiman might also trade up, and lo and behold, here they go. Hopefully, you've been online and seen the reaction from the Grind City media folks who were beside themselves. I mean, they were absolutely raging inside the FedEx Forum studios, and that was a lot of fun to watch from a distance. And before I read extensively and watched extensively things last night in terms of post first round coverage. I did read, I think, as I said, an article on True Hoop by Henry Abbott and David Thorpe, who do incredible work over there, that basically stated the position, Thorpe's position, that Cedric Coward ought to be drafted second overall behind Cooper Flag. And it sounds like a wild supposition in the headline, but once you read through what it meant, it makes a lot of sense in mostly Thorpe's words with a little bit of question prodding from Henry Abbott. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into what Thorpe said in that piece. I know he's come on, different media sources probably in the last 24 hours and said more, but let me try and be clear on one thing up front. Okay, I start, obviously, as so many do, from a stat standpoint. Okay, I go in there to StatHead, Basketball Reference, and I plug in the numbers. What numbers do I plug in? I pick some from Coward's career. Okay, 15 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 60% effective field goal percentage. Just how many other guys in college basketball had seasons like that in the last 2 years? Coward obviously did that in a full season last year, and 2 years ago. And then this past year, and just in 6 games of work, actually, he put those numbers up as well before getting hurt. The list that comes back, 25 players over the past 2 seasons put up those numbers: 15 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and an effective field goal percentage of 60% or better in college hoops. And the names that come back are pretty surprising. They include Zach Edey, Ryan Kalkbrenner, who did it twice, Vlad Golden, who did it twice, Robbie Avila, Graham Ike, who did it twice, and Kel'el Ware. Now, everybody in that group except for Graham Ike, and maybe you could argue against Robbie Avila as well. Avila from Indiana State and St. Louis, Ike, who's been at Gonzaga and Wyoming, Kel'el Ware from Indiana, Zach Edey, you already know if you're a Memphis Grizzlies fan, from Purdue, Vlad Golden, who was at Florida Atlantic and then at Michigan following Dusty May, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's been incredible in the Big East with Creighton. All of those guys are centers, right? They are mostly 7-footers. I think Avila is 6'10", Ek is maybe 6'9", but they are centers. It is so hard to put up the efficiency numbers that Coward put up in his 2 seasons between Eastern Washington and Washington State that guards don't do it. Wings don't do it. It is typically only the biggest guys on the floor who can play that well and make that many shots. So when you talk about what he was able to do, he's the only one among those players in that group of 25 with 15-6 shooting 60% effective field goal percentage, which weights 3-pointers more than two. He's the only one in that group who did 2 seasons where that stat line included at least one 3-pointer made per game. And that tells you that he is a floor spacer in a way that those other guys simply are not, even though Kalkbrenner has an outside shot. Um, Coward's efficiency numbers and the frequency with which he can succeed from long range already is pretty staggering. Now, David Thorpe went off on the effective field goal percentage point a little bit, and also from how well Coward did inside the arc. Right, he shot 72% for his college career from inside the arc on 2-point shots. That number is better than Zach Edey, and it's better than Cooper Flagg. Right, it is so hard to be that efficient because you can't often get that many good shots to fall, at a frequent clip, right? Like as Thorpe has said, I think most guys in workouts cannot get a 70% shooting clip. When you look at what he did over the course of those seasons in college, shooting 72% on his twos, some people have the response that, well, he did that against inferior competition. He's not going to do that against pro level competition. And I think what I would say to that, in part based on what Thorpe is saying, is if you have that perspective, you're looking at the wrong thing. You think of shooting 72% against weaker competition as bullying, right? That's just an advantage that you're using that nobody else has. That might be true if we were talking about somebody who was 7 feet tall and playing in, a quote unquote mid-major league. We're not. 72% shooting is discipline. It is the discipline to take shots over and over and over again that you can make, because that is the best basketball decision repeatedly in that moment, right? If you make the shot, you're not wrong. If you don't think he can make the right basketball decision in the pros, you're not paying attention to that, and you're not watching the tape either. He has a positive career assist to turnover ratio. He relocates when he doesn't have a good opportunity. He's not going to get you in trouble by thinking that he's too good. Like if it's there, he'll eat. If it's not there, he'll pass. And I think that is so important for a role player in particular, right? You have to be okay with a slimmer shot diet. He had 10 shots a game the last 2 years, even being the best player on his team. Cooper Flagg took 13 shots a game this year for Duke, and he's playing alongside 2 other lottery picks. So Coward is okay with kind of a pared down menu. If his teammates in the last 2 years, his best teammates, are guys named Dane and Nate and Ethan, you think he's going to have trouble playing with teammates named Ja and Jaron? I suspect not. I think the level of competition thing that people speak to, and Thorpe shot down that I'm trying to work off of, it just it doesn't carry water. It is about being a big guard, which is what Coward is, and the ability to finish close range shots at a high percentage in a way that many cannot. And I think that should be incredibly, I think, promising, fortifying, and kind of auspicious. If Grizzlies fans are looking forward to the future. Now, you can have the other concern, which is he's unproven. Okay, Thorpe made the point, as I think more people should, that fans can analyze games. The job of a scout is to analyze an at bat, right? Let's just say, or one inning of work. It doesn't take a lot to project Cooper Flagg. You've seen Cooper Flagg everywhere. He played a whole year at Duke. He played even before that on the AAU circuit with Team USA workouts. I mean, he was incredible. Okay, that just tells me if you think Cooper Flagg is good, then you have the internet. That's what that says. If you have to say, weapon to your head, is Cedric Coward a great player? That's something that you are guessing at, or you are recognizing something in him that others cannot with a small sample size. And that's betting on scouting. That's betting on the people in your building doing the legwork and having the insights that others don't have, or just don't have the confidence to pull the trigger on, right? If you go to the Grizzlies front office and you take a look at what they've done under Zach Kleiman, you pull in names like Brandon Clark, Desmond Bain, Santi Aldama, Jalen Wells, Zach Edey. All of those guys, except Edey, were picked outside the top 20 in the first round, okay? And they have all been top 15 in their draft classes in win shares for 48 up to this point. So, yes, there have been some misses. I think notably 2022 and 2023, where the glut of wings that you tried to get something out of ended up maybe not offering you as much as you thought, at least not up to this point. Even though trading Jake Laravia last year ended up being a bigger deal for the Grizzlies than probably they figured on. But you have to bet on the research that you've done and the research and the track record that you already have with drafting players in the first round and getting more out of them than others might expect is pretty strong up to this point. You pair that with factors like Duke was prepared to offer him multiple millions of dollars to come and play, and he committed to them. And then he got the feedback such that he was going to be selected in the in the NBA draft. So he passed on Duke. Right? He said, "Look, I was going to play at Duke, and my goal is to play in the NBA. So Duke is just kind of a stepping stone to get to that place. So as much as I would love to be a Blue Devil, basically, I got to go, and I got to go now. And I think when you take that into account, that he passed on Duke and offers from the likes of, I mean, Kansas, Washington, Florida, huge name basketball schools that wanted him badly. You have to feel good about taking him, especially after going through all of the draft workout combine stuff that you get to do with interviews and that kind of stuff. Then you learn about the whole personality makeup, all of those things that if you haven't seen them, will come out in bits and pieces and probably will come out in a big way tomorrow when he gets a big media introduction here in Memphis. Um, so I think that has to make Grizzlies fans feel great, and I think that has to make David Thorpe feel, I would say, validated. Not that he needs validation from anybody. He's done this for 3 decades, and yeah, I am kind of zeroing in on one analyst's take on this, but he was not the only one who was positive on this. Sam Vecini loved it. There were others as well in the you know kind of draft. Pundit world who were very, very high on it. Kevin O'Connor loved it, and those are two of the foremost voices kind of in that sphere. And they were highly positive on what it can be for Cedric Coward and the Grizzlies. So I think those are the important things to understand about Coward.